Coming to paperback and e-readers, the steam season of The Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of The Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Historical couples in crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Historical Couples in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Historical Couples in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about Jill and Kent Easter. Now, the first person I'm going to be talking about in this historical couple in crisis is Jill Easter. Now, Jill Easter, along with her husband, Kent Easter, conspired to destroy the reputation of PTA president and after-school events coordinator Kelly Peters, a woman who was volunteering in this position, by framing her for the possession of a series of drugs that Jill Easter and her husband planted inside of her vehicle. And Jill Easter basically went from being a part of a power couple that were a pair of yuppies that lived in Irvine, California, and lived very well, to winding up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, primarily due to her jealousy of Kelly Peters. And because she was so jealous of Kelly Peters, this is why she went from being a high-powered attorney to winding up on the road to destroying her own personal and professional reputation by having a vendetta against Kelly Peters, the volunteer parent coordinator of after-school activities at the Plaza Vista School in Irvine, California. Now, what led to this entire incident that led to Jill Easter becoming a woman in crisis is something that happened on February 17th, 2010, when Jill Easter was supposed to pick up her 6-year-old son from after-school activities, which on that day was a tennis lesson. Now, due to a miscommunication, possibly what happened was the boy basically was left with a tennis coach at the back of the school and was not brought to the front of the school at the usual pickup location in the front. And as a result, the boy was left crying because he felt that his mother wasn't there to meet his needs and pick him up on time. And because the boy wasn't picked up on time, this is where Kelly Peters felt that there was possibly a miscommunication, because either he didn't line up fast enough or he walked slow. And it was that term of slow that triggered Jill Easter and her husband, Kent, when they heard the term slow. And the term slow basically was her saying that the boy maybe wasn't moving fast enough, but Jill Easter took it as her saying that the son was mentally slow. And as she heard that the woman said that her son was mentally slow, this is where this feminist indoctrinated woman basically got in her feelings. And as she got in her feelings, she went out here and looked to participate in a vendetta to destroy Kelly Peters in order to show her intellectual superiority, and look to destroy her by showing her intellectual superiority by humiliating Kelly Peters as she looked to destroy her personal and professional reputation in an effort to make sure that she would never be able to volunteer at the school and never be in any sort of position at that school. Jill Easter basically was so caught up in her feelings of anger towards Kelly Peters that she was acting impulsively as related to waging this vitriolic campaign against Kelly Peters, and waged this campaign against Kelly Peters, writing letters to the school principal, handing out letters to the parents in the parking lot, accusing them of leaving their son locked out of the school unsupervised, blaming her for having anxiety attacks, and demanding she be fired. Unfortunately, this basically didn't have much impact on people, and this further triggered Jill Easter's anger further triggered Jill Easter's anger that she could not persuade people to go out here and look to get Kelly Peters out of this position. Many of those people she was looking to again create a mob among them. Unfortunately, those people were not angry about that whole situation. The school wound up doing an investigation and found Kelly Peters blameless. And basically, when that happened, this made Jill Easter even that much more angry, made her that much more angry, because as she could not get the relief as related to the school, this is where she decided to escalate her behavior in an effort to humiliate Kelly Peters and destroy her reputation, because when it comes down to feminist indoctrinated women, again, their female nature is about looking to, again, destroy other females, destroy them, and humiliate them. And when she saw she couldn't humiliate her through the school, this is where she decided to try to find a way to humiliate her in court. And this is where she filed a restraining order against Kelly Peters, filed lawsuits against them, told them that Kelly Peters was trying to kill Jill Easter and stalk her, even though she had no motive to do so. She had no motive to do so because she was just a woman who was volunteering as related to the school in an effort to help out her own kids and other kids. She just basically cared about kids, but Jill Easter didn't care about anyone. All she cared about was satisfying her feelings, and as she cared about satisfying her feelings, she targeted Kelly Peters for complete humiliation. She wanted to see this woman destroyed and humiliated in front of her, and when she could get no recourse from the courts, this is where she went from working as an attorney as related to, again, upholding the law, to looking to go out here and break the law, because what she wanted to do was sate her feelings and see this woman broken and humiliated. And this is where she basically, again, looked to plant some drugs into the vehicle of Kelly Peters. Now, Kelly Peters, as she was doing volunteer work, oftentimes left her vehicle unlocked. And this is where Jill Easter, again, went to participate to escalate her behavior to criminal activity. And she called the police on 2011, on February 16th, about a year later. She calls the Irvine Police Department at 1:15 on a school day, reporting an erratic driver around the Plaza Vista School, and then says that the name of the person was VJ Kanjashkar, and was concerned about the welfare of the child, who they said attended the school. This is what the mysterious caller says, and this is where they say that one of the parent volunteers there is under the influence of drugs and might have been the one driving erratically. That's what they said VJ Kanjashkar said, and this is where the police come in and then find the white PT Cruiser of Kelly's car. They find Kelly Peters' car, and they find Kelly Peters' car, and they find inside the vehicle, they find a bag of marijuana protruding out of the seat pocket. They go and they also find other drugs in there, including a bag of Percocet, a bag of Vicodin, and also find other drug paraphernalia. And this is where the police then confront Kelly Peters, and look to question her regarding the possession of all of these illegal drugs. And Kelly Peters basically was thinking more about her daughter, which is what a mother really thinks about. And she tells people to put the drugs away because the whole thing is that they're not hers. And she didn't want to have her daughter see this go on. And police then, after hearing her, then went out here and gave her a sobriety test, which she passed. And they asked her who would put drugs in her vehicle, and then she said Jill Easter. Now, this is where the police started to do their own investigation. They did their own investigation and found there was zero evidence of Kelly Peters' DNA on the drugs or on her family as related to the drugs, and decided not to file any charges against Kelly Peters, but decided to go out here and do their own investigation into the case of Jill Easter and her husband, Kent. They went and did their own investigation and then found that the cell phone basically of Kent Easter basically was pinging in Newport Beach, California, 11 miles from Irvine. And this is where they had hotel surveillance cameras on the date and the time show Kent Easter walking into a hotel. and he worked at a law firm not next door to that hotel where the cell phone call was placed. And with all of this evidence, they also then did DNA and found that the Easter's DNA was on the drugs, and eventually said that their cell phone towers were pinging in that same location, and that was enough to get Jill Easter and her husband Kent arrested and charged with false imprisonment for tricking police into looking to apprehend Kelly Peters, and eventually led to Jill Easter being the one who suffered humiliation as she was forced to plead guilty in the face of the overwhelming evidence on Wednesday, October 30th, 2013, and wound up again having to spend 120 days in jail, or 4 months in jail, for this whole crime. That's what happened here to Jill Easter in her efforts to humiliate Kelly Peters. She was the one who suffered the ignominious end. She was the one who suffered the destroyed reputation. She was the one who wound up with her career destroyed, to the point where she basically was forced to change her name to Ava Everhart, because she was the one who looked to destroy Kelly Peters. And when I think of Jill Easter, it takes me back to something I heard in a gospel song where it says, if you dig a ditch, you might just dig two, because you might dig a ditch just for you. And this woman basically, again, she reaped what she sowed, greater than what she sowed, later than what she sowed. She sought to do evil to Kelly Peters. Again, a woman who just cared about children. And there was just, again, a minor mistake as related to kids lining up. And ironically, with Jill Easter, she showed how slow she actually was, because any smart woman would have just basically took it as, okay, there's a miscommunication here, left it alone, called it a day, and then said, okay, if this ever happens again, then maybe I'll have a case against something. But no, this woman, again, wanted to flex and show her power and be the boss in this relationship. And that's what feminist indoctrinated women love to do. They love to call themselves being the boss in the relationship, and they're going to go out here and show somebody. They're going to go out here and make somebody pay for whatever slight that they're feeling. Whatever slight that they're feeling, they're going to make somebody pay for it. And that's basically what she wanted to do in the case of Kelly Peters. But she was the one who wound up paying and wound up losing at the end of the day. Because she went from being one of these high-powered attorneys who was a feminist woman who had it all going on, to winding up being a woman in crisis. And again, a woman in crisis to the point where she had to change her name. Her whole reputation was destroyed, and she wound up losing everything because she couldn't navigate through her emotions, and because she wanted to be the boss in this situation and be the leader in this situation, she led her family into a situation where they went from being high-powered people and high-value people to being being broke and at the bottom of the world. All because this woman basically just could not understand her role as a woman. She wanted to be the boss in the situation, dominating and controlling the situation, and wound up going from being, again, a high-powered female attorney to winding up being yet another woman in crisis. Now, the second person I'm going to be talking about in this historical couple in crisis is Jill Easter's husband, Kent Easter. Now, Kent Easter was a young urban professional who was well on his way to a promising career. He had graduated from an Ivy League university and was working at one of these high-powered law firms, and like Jill Easter, was one of these high-powered attorneys as they were forming this power couple. Unfortunately, when it came down to Kent Easter, even though he had that high power position and came from an Ivy League university, sadly what happened was he was not the leader in this relationship, and his testicles were possibly in the change purse of the Gucci bag of Jill Easter, because she was the one who was the one running this relationship. And basically because she was running the relationship, Kent Easter was on the road to being a man in crisis, because he was following behind the lead of Jill Easter, who basically went on this vendetta against Kelly Peters. And as she went on this vendetta against Kelly Peters, sadly because Kent Easter's testicles were inside the change purse of Jill Easter's Gucci bag, he did not go out here and look to check Jill Easter as related to her escalating ratchet behavior, because had he checked her as related to her ratchet behavior, it could have basically kept him out of jail for 6 months and kept him from being disbarred from being an attorney. Now, this whole situation with Kent Easter happened because, again, he was not looking to be a man who was looking to understand his role as a man and a head and a steward in God's order. And because he wasn't looking to be a head or a steward and looking to take responsibility for his family, he did not go out and resolve this conflict by checking his wife and letting her know where the line is. Now, this whole situation that happened at the Plaza Vista School, where Jill and Kent Easter's son was attending, as related to an after-school program. He was attending this after-school program, and what happened was that due to a miscommunication, her son, Jill and Kent Easter's son, was left at the back of the school with the tennis instructor, and as he was at the back of the school, he was not brought to the front where he was supposed to be picked up by Jill Easter, who herself was late. And because what happened was, again, a miscommunication, this is where Jill Easter really got upset, because Kelly Peters said that the boy basically was moving slow and took it as her saying that her son was slow, and then looked to again wage a campaign against Kelly Peters, a campaign that basically was allowed to escalate because Jill Easter told Kent Easter what was going on, and instead of him looking to be, again, a critical thinker and a guy who was looking to resolve the problem, he, like many beta males, basically submitted to his wife and further escalated the situation by going along with her and going along with the campaign that Jill Easter was looking to wage against Kelly Peters to destroy her reputation, and basically, as I believe it, again, helped her out, enabling her dysfunction by going along with her campaign as related to writing these letters to try to get her out of this volunteer position, look to get her out of this volunteer position and make it where she would be completely banished. Again, this is the type of emotional thinking that a woman has, that a man has to check and get in line to let her know where she's going too far. But instead of letting Jill Easter know that she was going too far, Kent Easter basically did not have any backbone or stones to check his wife, to let her know that she has been acting out of pocket. That's what Kent Easter did not do. He did not check Jill Easter's out-of-pocket behavior, and as he didn't check her out-of-pocket and out-of-control behavior, he basically enabled her to escalate her behavior to go out here and start filing lawsuits against Kelly Peters, enabled her to file these lawsuits against Kelly Peters to harass her as related to false allegations of harassment, false allegations of stalking, and continue to harass her. And when that didn't work, as related to the campaign to get her off the volunteer of the PTA, and these lawsuits basically did not get any sort of traction, this is where Kent Easter then further enabled his wife's dysfunction by going out here and supporting her in a campaign to frame Kelly Peters by putting drugs inside of her vehicle, looked to put these drugs inside of the PT Cruiser she was driving a year later, again putting a large bag of marijuana inside of her car, and on the seat pocket putting other drugs in her car, such as Percocets and Vicodins and a marijuana pipe, in an effort to try to get her arrested for possession of drugs. And again, this is what this simp basically did, because he did not, again, have the backbone or the stones to be the man in the relationship and check his woman as related to her basically out-of-pocket, ratchet, and escalating to criminal behavior. What was happening here was this guy basically failed the crap test by not checking this woman's crap as related to her grudge against Kelly Peters. She basically had a grudge against Kelly Peters because she was jealous of Kelly Peters, being in this position of power. And being in this position of power, she was angry that this woman was in a place where she had power that she wanted to have. And again, she wanted to break down and humiliate this woman. And this guy, again, didn't look to check his wife and let her know that she was getting out of line like the way a man is supposed to, because a man is supposed to shut a woman down when she starts to get out of control like this. When a woman gets out of control and gets to the point where she's looking to commit crimes to hurt other people, that's where a man got to step in and shut her down. And shut her down and let her know that this is not going to go. And if she wants to go on, she's going to go on by herself and go on by herself to go on to deal with those consequences, because I'm not dealing with this at all. And you need to set aside your feelings as related to how jealous you are of this other woman. That's what a man would have told Jill Easter, but this guy didn't check Jill Easter as related to her ratchet behavior. And as he went out here and enabled that behavior by being out here, again, being the guy who, again, brought the drugs, according to some reports, again, helped bring the drugs, because the drugs were seen at a location where he worked. This is according to some reports. And these drugs were again found, and again, the DNA of both of them were found on these drugs. And as a result, Jill Easter basically was the one who got the 4-month sentence, but as Kent looked to try to save his reputation, he pleaded not guilty. And as he pleaded not guilty, what happened to Kent Easter is he got a jury that was hung, and then wound up getting convicted with another one. And after he got this conviction, he basically wound up with a 6-month sentence. And after he was given this 6-month sentence, he basically wound up, after spending 180 days in jail, wound up losing his law license, being disbarred. He wound up getting disbarred in 2014, and after getting disbarred in 2014, this is where he got another slap in the face when Jill Easter basically looked to participate in her natural hypergamy, by going out here and changing her name, and possibly, I think, would have looked to divorce this simp, and basically look to monkey branch to the next man. That's what she was looking to do, because she saw Kent Easter as a tool, saw him as a tool she could use to get from point A to point B. And after she used him to get from point A to point B, she saw that this guy had no more value to her. And that's where Kent Easter found out he was not just a man, but just a man in crisis. A man in crisis who wound up losing his career as related to being a high-powered attorney, lost his status as a high-value man, all because he followed the lead of a woman and did not lead that woman. And because he did not lead that woman, he basically wound up a man in crisis, did 180 days in jail with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and basically wound up getting possibly clowned and turned out inside of that jail, all because he could not check a woman who was leading the relationship, a woman who led the relationship and turned this couple from a high-powered couple to a couple in crisis, and possibly was looking to monkey branch to the next man, because when she changed her name to Ava Everhart, this was all about her, again, looking to get away from accountability, looking to get away from that tarnished reputation. But this is what happens to simps out here. And again, when a simp submits to a woman, he basically is the one who gets tricked. And that's what happened here to Kent Easter. He was the one who got tricked right out of a good job and a great career. He was on the road to being a young urban professional. Now he's just a busted baby daddy because he didn't get the male life skills or male survival skills to understand how to be a leader and how to be a critical thinker and how to shut down mess that women love to start, because women love to start drama like this. They love to start drama over trivial things, but it's up to the man to shut it down, and shut it down before that woman winds up leading to them winding up going from being a high-powered couple to winding up being a couple in crisis. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behavior of toxic women, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com. And if you want to learn about how to identify the dysfunctional behavior of beta males, you can pick up The Man Crisis along with The Woman Crisis on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find both of these books at other online booksellers like Barnes & Noble. And you can find it in digital format at other platforms like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make another historical couples in crisis video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App, and if I know something about that couple, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.